Hello, good day, good evening, wherever you may be. This is Dean Webb for Peerless.com, and I'm interviewing people in the series, How Do I Become an Infosec Speaker? And today we have with us all the way from India, Vandana Verma. Vandana, say hello.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for this, Dean.
No problem. So Vandana, uh, what's your background? How many years of experience do you have in IT, and how many years do you have making presentations?
So I have over 14 years of experience in IT, and it's been close to 7 years that I am part of the speaking experiences.
hmm Okay, so you've been doing this for a while here. In your experience, how much of being able to be a presenter is relies on what you know,
Mhm.
and how much of it relies on being able to know the organizers and to know how to get your request approved?
So there's one thing called abstract. When
Mhm,
we talk about speaking at a conference, let's say if I started talking about my experience wherein I started writing abstracts, I was thinking that where to start off while speaking at a conference. So I started speaking at a meetup. So over the years, I tried to be in that speaker zone wherein I get recognized by the people that yes, I'm speaking at a conference. So the first thing I got to know that we have to write a good abstract.
mhm,
Your research can be as good as like anything, but then if we don't write a good abstract, it's a story of our experience about the content that we want to produce or that we want to share it with a wider audience. So that
mhm,
abstract is more of a picturization in
mhm,
lesser words of the whole presentation. So it's very, very important to write a good abstract, submit it in time, and once that's selected, or once you start, actually, once you start submitting, once you know that you might be speaking,
mhm,
then start working on the presentation. That's what I do, because
mhm.
if I don't write a good abstract or if I don't submit, I would never be able to speak. So it takes some time to learn that how to write a good abstract, but once you know it, you can nail it.
So how long did it take you to get where you're good at writing that abstract?
So I would say it all started in 2017, wherein I thought,
Mhm,
okay, yes, let's start with all the international presentations. I want to share my like my research with the wider people around, and I was not sure whether I would be able to train people. So I got my first opportunity for training people in 2017, and since then, I think every now and then I keep speaking. But trust me, I have my fair share of rejections every year. Like I just submit it at the conference. I list down the conferences where I want to speak. Write down the abstract, and I take time to write down the abstract. It's not just that it
mhm,
happens in one go. It take multiple iterations to um, get to the point wherein I feel that yes, because if
mhm.
I don't feel that this is a picturization of my presentation, how would anyone else would be able to do it? So it takes time, but once it happens, I think you get to a point wherein you start spreading across, and I don't stop at submitting at like one conference and get I don't take a rejection as like I cannot speak again in any other conference at it. So I keep submitting at multiple ones and seeing whatever comes in, and I just share it. And if nothing happens, then there are local meetups wherein I talk about it.
So really, I mean, you're saying it. You started getting really good at in 2017, and you've been speaking for 7 years. So doing a little math, that's about halfway through your career is where you really got to where you had the skill that you wanted for
Hmm.
writing that abstract. So I take it then those first 4 years were a lot of learning on what works and what doesn't work.
Right. So for the first 4 years, I was more of a person uh, wherein speaking at a conference is like a big deal. So I
Hmm.
started my speaking experiences at like the local null and ovast meetups,
Hmm.
wherein I got to know that there's a forum which exists wherein I should start interacting with people. Started speaking at multiple forums within the organization for the wider audiences, like at tech talks and all of
Hmm.
that. Because speaking experience is not just about starting with the conference.
Hmm.
It has to be at a place wherein you're warm with people, because a lot of people are not very confident of speaking at conferences, so they can actually start off with that. That's what I did. And suddenly slowly I got to know that yes, there are further arenas, and I started going to the conferences and then getting to know, had a discussion with a lot of people that how to write an abstract, because speaking just doesn't happen in one shot. At least for me it did not happen. And there are a lot of people I keep talking about it, and they also said that you start writing abstract, share it with people, tell them what you want to showcase to the world, and take inputs. It's very very important. I know that it took me good 4 years to 4 5 years to get into the wheel wherein I can move around on the road. So uh, but then now I would say I am fairly at a point wherein I keep submitting and then keep learning. And it's a learning journey, because every conference has their own flavor. They want to look at certain talks in a certain way. If it's an AppSec conference, they would tailor around the talks, AppSec or DevSecOps or certain technologies which are flavored around AppSec. If it's Black Hat, they have their own flavor in different fields. If it's RSA, it's all different arena. So different conferences have different ventures, or what you call flavors.
Sure. As you were learning about becoming a speaker, as you're getting involved in it, were you mentored or did you have to figure this all out on your own?
So I was mentored,
Hmm.
because getting a mentor is like one important thing which I learned over the years in Infosec. And if you keep, because um, I would say that if you keep going through that, you wouldn't need it. It's fine. But then I felt I need one mentor, or I would say that I have multiple mentors over the years. So they helped me, uh, not with the abstract, but making me understand that how to write one with my own skills, because everyone has a way of writing the abstract. So I used to write an abstract, read it multiple times, refine it multiple times, and share it with people around me. And mentors cannot only be just the people who are senior to me, but who are the people who are speaking at multiple conferences. So I used to share and then refine it, make it relevant to a conference, go through the previous year conference abstract, so that I understand that this is the way that they would like the people to submit an abstract, because there's always a format where certain conferences like their speakers to submit it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that helped me a lot. And then my mentors helped me in guiding that how to write it. I can't write an essay, and I can't write like just a paragraph. So it has to be like fitted within certain words, fit in with certain language.
Almost like filling out a resume where you have to make sure you say the right words to get through the algorithm that's scanning all the resumes. You have to have the right words so that way the conference organizers see certain things and they go, ah, that's what I want, right?
Right. And sometimes the most simple abstract gets selected,
Hmm.
because they understand that this might be important for the whole audience. So yeah, I think you just need to write, share it with the people, submit it, and you'll be good.
So then once you've submitted, then let's say you've gotten accepted here.
Mhm.
If you're doing a lot of speaking, and let me ask, how often do you speak uh, per month or per year?
Mhm. So last year was like a showstopper for me, wherein
Hmm.
I've spoken at like multiple places. I spoken at AppSec Village at DEF CON, Diana Initiative. I got an opportunity to speak at B-Sides LV at the almost last minute,
Hmm.
and I spoke at All Day DevOps. I trained at AppSec California, Seasides. So like there were quite a few ventures wherein I did, but then it was all
Hmm.
different flavors. I trained at AppSec at multiple places, but then I spoke about DevSecOps. I talk about multiple other topics like cloud security. What are the myths around it? What I thought that people are less talking about. So I wanted to research and then start with sharing my experience around it. What I thought could be a myth in cloud. So I started sharing my experience around that. And when we say DevSecOps, people talk about tools, people talk about processes. How about talking about culture? Because it's more about cultural
Right.
shift. So I started talking about that.
Well, but getting back to that travel, when you spoke at a lot of places last year, that's a lot of flying, a lot of traveling. How do you balance that with your your day job, your career? How do
Mhm.
you keep them all in balance?
So the first thing that when I submit an abstract and there's a confirmation that comes in,
Hmm.
I tell the people in my office, my leadership, that yes, this is where I am accepted and I have to go. And
Hmm.
this is support that you have to take from your organizational leadership and your home, because it's very important to balance out home, office, and then your speaking experiences. A lot of time I've taken my personal time off and then flew. And a lot of time my organization has supported me. Okay, you can just go ahead and share your experience because it's very, very important. It's part of um, your own journey. So I think you should be open for it. So go ahead and share it. So it helped me sail through it. So it was very important for me to take them into confidence and then move ahead with it.
So how difficult was it being able to convince your organization that this is part of your personal development, that this is something that's good for your career and good for your ability to keep, giving them what they hired you
Mhm.
to do? How hard was
Right.
that to get that message through?
I would say it was a mix
Hmm.
because it was my own things that how would I share it, because I am speaking at multiple conferences, whether I should be how I should be telling them. That was very,
Hmm.
very important for me to phrase it. So phrasing was one thing, but then um, it happened gradually. I think
Okay.
it kept happening, and then I got to experience, and they understood that it's a community effort. And then when I am traveling, I try to make sure that I am not missing out my work.
Right.
So I try to balance out that even if I'm traveling, I try and take out time to answer to the emails, get my work done, so that it's all smooth. Because I wouldn't say that if I'm traveling, I would be off work completely. It's not possible
Right.
when you are trying to speak at conferences and when you are traveling internationally. It's very, very important to keep a check on your work.
So Vandana,
Mhm.
you speak at technical conferences. You mentioned those. Have you also spoken at non-technical conferences? And if you have, tell us more about what that's like.
So I've spoken at non-technical conferences as well, because they wanted to know how exactly tech works,
Hmm.
and not just that, but how exactly information security works.
Okay.
Because um, if we say that information security is a domain, there is cybersecurity as a domain. It's for the people who are not part of IT. Like, think about people who are in banking, think about people who are in academia.
Hmm.
So it's very, very important for them also to know that there's something called cybersecurity. They need to um, know how social media best practices are, what are they, how they can follow, because they are all on social media. How to how to perform transactions securely, how to educate the. Let's say we are right now at a situation wherein the whole world is at shutdown. So
Yes.
teachers, professors, every educator is trying to make sure they're connected with their students and giving the session online. So for them to know how the technology works, how how much security is important, because if someone gets into their session and start saying things which are not relevant or which are not right, which can be a problem. So how to deliver sessions securely, how can be connected with the people, how to use phones securely, because we all
Hmm.
do everything from our phone, keeping a passcode which is like more than 6 digits, and not the pattern,
Yeah.
all those things. So which was very important for me to talk to them, and I enjoyed it because
So,
we yeah.
not to cut you off there, but you say you're actually, did I understand correctly? You're actually still giving presentations even though things are in shutdown right now because of the pandemic?
Yes.
So, okay, so how are conferences being conducted virtually?
So virtually, they give us a platform wherein
Hmm.
we join, and then um, it's open for the wider audience, like open it up for anyone and everyone to join in. Even yesterday night, I had a presentation for one of the meetups internationally. So uh, it's be giving conference organization organizers also an opportunity to connect with a wider audience. They're streaming the
Hmm.
talks on YouTube Live, or at a platform wherein people can come, n number of people can come and join. Because when we say we are home and we have platform and we are using streaming medias which are like open for everyone and anyone, and we ourselves are experimenting with multiple setups, that how we can stream a session online, how we can connect with a wider audience.
Wow. And when you talk about a wider audience, you mentioned work in academia and schools.
Hmm.
Are you, have you also given presentations to, like when you talk about schools,
Hmm.
are you speaking of older children, or have you also taught younger children?
I have taught younger children, like they are in fifth, sixth grade.
Hmm.
So, teaching them was an experience wherein they had no technology, they have no
Really?
exposure to the technology, and we went for the first time to train them on a language which is Scratch.
Hmm.
So it was a bit difficult, but it was an experience wherein we getting to know that how to start off from the very basics. Like we started somewhere, now they have to start somewhere. So it was an experience telling them that this is computer, this is laptop, this is where you click in. But they were quite a nice learner. Like,
Hmm.
so even though they've never seen a laptop, they've never seen a computer, like they've never get their hands dirty on it. But then they learned so quickly. It took just a day for us to start off with that, and then we went again to the school. They were all set for it. They were like all excited to learn new things.
So that sounds, is that one of your more rewarding experiences then, being able to basically teach technology to people who didn't have it in their hand, but they were so
Ab-
excited? That sounds
yeah,
magical there.
absolutely. Yeah.
That is great. So what are some other things that you've heard just from other organizers or other presenters about
Mhm.
maybe topics that they want to hear more of, or perhaps different styles or formats that they want to uh, see more of? What are some ideas you could give to a
Mhm.
person wanting to get started out there?
So, the few things or few inputs that I have got is that your presentation should be your style, but don't put too much content on a presentation slide.
Hmm.
So, if there is a topic and I put in some points, it 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 makes it in such a way, it looks at it, people start looking at only at the presentation. They
Hmm.
don't look at you. And when you are speaking at a conference, people should look at you, they should listen to you. And that's why people are gathered in a room. And if we start putting a lot of content on the slides, people will only look at the slides because they'll feel that they are missing out on something. So what I have
Hmm.
learned, that only put one liners which are relevant, for that particular slide, and if you can put a picture around it
Yeah.
wherein people can picturize it, then that's how they remember it.
And you mentioned only you do one-liners. That reminds me of when I tried to do stand-up comedy a few years ago, and it was basically the same advice. Only do one-liners. Don't. Of course, we couldn't use PowerPoint in comedy, but keep your comments brief,
Mhm.
and then you'll get a better audience reaction than if you do something that's very involved. So it's funny how that carries over there.
Yeah.
um, and but back to say when you say keep your content brief. So
Mhm.
are you saying then not much on the slide, but it's more what you have to say that's going to be the bulk of your content?
Right. So that's what I
Mhm.
feel wherein when people are gathered in the room to listen to you, let them listen to you. Be the spotlight and be in the spotlight. Also, when we start saying stories around our content, people will
Mhm.
start relating to it. A lot of times when I started off, I used to just put the content and start speaking about it. But then uh, when I move to a different format wherein I tell stories
Mhm.
rather than just the content, it makes a lot of difference. So stories, adding anecdotes, providing the content from yourself, like you are the person who's delivering the session, makes a lot of difference. And people start seeking your advice in a different way. People start talking to you, and after the session, I've seen like people come up to me and then discuss few things with me. I've given sessions on like different domains and different zones. So it's a gradual learning, and I have learned that way.
When you go to conferences, what are the things you like to see in other presenters? Because it you're not going just to speak. You also attend. What do
Hmm.
you see in other presenters that strikes you as like this is really good? This is something that I want to try more of.
Right. So the way they are delivering the presentation, because I have my way of delivering the presentations, and sometimes I just go and look for different topics and then go there and understand how the person is trying to deliver the session. Because once I am comfortable in my own zone, how about trying something different? The way I said that I never used to have pictures in my presentations, and now I've started to embed pictures into it. And rather than putting the content on one slide, but I want to have it or I should have it, especially the stats, how about bringing them one by one? This is I have learned by going to the different presentations wherein they bring the animation one by one, and not like exhaustive animation, but slowly like coming in, splitting, chiming in, wherein one by one it comes up and build
Mhm.
up the whole story around it. So I actually learned it. So sometimes I just go and set up the presentation and see how the person is trying to connect with the audience, because connecting with the audience is like the most important part.
Sure. And I guess that's another part there then too. Like what would happen or have you had an experience where your technology failed you, where the presentation didn't happen and you just had to speak
Mhm.
completely on your own?
Yes, that has happened with me, wherein demo gurus just did not shower their blessings on me. So I had to explain it without that. But that was a lesson for me. So
Mhm.
now I make sure that I have my demos recorded, come what may,
Ah,
even though I have tested like n number of times. So every
mhm,
before every presentation, um, I make sure I wake up at like 4 o'clock. It's like even though I don't have an alarm set, it just happened naturally that I will wake up early, do the demo run multiple times for every exercise, for every demo that I have,
mhm,
and even if it fails, I have my video ready, like of the presentation, of the and of
mhm,
the demos. Even my presentations are on Drive, so that if my laptop also fails,
mhm.
what's next? Like all the negative scenarios that can go in my mind, I make sure that I'm backup ready.
So basically, doing a presentation on security, you have to have quite a lot of security A lot of disaster recovery goes into planning a successful talk there.
Yeah, and it's not just for security, it's for any talk. I
True.
think anyone should be like disaster ready. What could go wrong? Because it's not just their reputation at stake, but it's the conference organization,
Mhm.
organized reputation, and then people would connect later on with you. But and still, things do happen. It's just that
Yeah.
how we take it up in a positive way, keep up high, and then go ahead, even if everything fails. Without that, just be confident and speak. People are there to listen to you, not look at your presentation, not just look at your demos. People will listen to you.
Right. Right. Yeah. I like the note about demo. I've seen plenty of live demos go south, especially ones that I'm doing. So I'm going to take your note about record it ahead of time. Just in, I'm going to borrow that myself, both professionally and in speaking. Uh, so so when you are talking,
Mhm.
do you have situations where uh, you have like any language or communication issues that you have to overcome? Like,
Um,
have you ever given a talk to an audience that was composed mostly of people who aren't native speakers of the language you're using to deliver it in?
Absolutely, that has
Mhm.
happened to me. Especially, I'm so in India. There are multiple languages. Abroad, I
Right.
I think I've never faced any challenge because
Mhm.
mostly people speak English, so that was never a challenge. But like everyone has their own set of challenges. So uh, there was one school where we went here in India, and in India there are multiple languages.
Right.
And like I speak Hindi, I speak English, I speak Punjabi, but then
Mhm.
there are people who speak different other languages like Kannada,
Mhm.
Malayalam, Telugu, and I don't know them. And I can't say that when I'm part of a certain place, I would be knowing it or they would be knowing Hindi or English. I can't assume that. So that was one place wherein I had challenges in one of the schools, government schools, wherein they were only knowing Kannada. But then the people around me helped me a lot. So they helped me in making the people understand what I want to speak, especially a translation. The teachers helped me a lot. They came up front and they started translating it for the kids.
And
So
then, and the kids were able to like interact with you as well.
yes, actually,
Great.
and over the time, I started understanding the language. At least I would say to an extent, I understand the language, and especially with the sign languages, I understand. Okay, that's what they're trying to say. That's what they did not understand. So I had to speak again. I had to make them understand, showcase the demo. But it was like a surreal experience, wherein it's more of a learning experience for me too.
Great. Yeah. So that learning experience, those are words you use frequently as you talk about
Hmm.
doing these presentations.
Hmm.
Is what is your motivation? Is it to teach or is it to learn? Or is it something that I haven't asked about yet? Why do
I
you do these speaking engagements?
Um, I think it's both because
Hmm.
when you speak, you learn as well. You start researching about that topic. You start researching. You actually look for resources which can give you the insight on what you want to learn. It's very, very important to zero down on certain topics. Like I'll give you an example. Right now, I am trying to learn, understand, share my insights on zero trust because
Hmm.
um, that's been there for a while, but then it I just happened to come across it uh, a couple of years back, but then I started my research last year, and I wanted to understand how safe it is, what exactly it means, what should I do about it. And then I started jotting down points, and then for one of the conferences I submitted and I got accepted. So that whole arena was, now I have done my research, how about doing more research about it. I started doing. I gave my presentation. Now, every time I talk about zero trust, I talk about it from different perspective, because zero trust means something for CISOs or C-suites, and it means something for a technical audience because they have to understand it from their perspective what it means. So try and model my talk around that. And the most amazing experiences are with the trainings, because trainings give me an open view to connect with like lot of people. So every time I train, I learn something new. I get a different experience, different audience, and um, I practice everything in a different way. Like where I started off in 2017, where my first training on web app security, until today, everything has changed. The whole content
Yeah.
I've remodeled, the whole demos I've remodeled. So it's a learning, it's a journey of learning, sharing it with people, connecting with the people, because it gives you an experience where what other people are thinking of your talk, how you experience, because there are certain things which I might be talking a lot. Like I started recording my talks and listening
Uh-huh.
it myself. There are few words which are joining words which I talk a lot, which I think everyone does it. It's just that how you need to know that I speak and a lot. I speak also a lot. I used to, like, I still sometimes do it.
The
So,
crutch words.
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
If nothing is coming in my mind, I start speaking those words, and I know this is where I'm using these words a lot. And, like I said, and now. So, all of
Yeah.
this, you have to experience it, and it'll come over the time.
You talk about the crutch words there. I remember when I was a student, I did a speech class where the teacher would hit a bell every time we said or if we had a long pause and we were just thinking of saying those words, the teacher would hit the bell, and
Mhm.
we hated the bell, so we just finally learned how to speak properly. But yeah, but definitely recording yourself and listening, that's a great suggestion there. And I love how you describe your speaking as it's learning, it's teaching, it's an adventure, and you have these experiences in your life now that are, to me, it seems like you've got quite a few treasures there, uh, because of what you've been able to experience.
Yeah, and I will tell you one of the experience wherein I prepared for good 2 months, because I was
Hmm.
like, so last year I did a keynote at Global AppSec DC.
Hmm.
It was like the first time I was keynoting, and I knew that how the OWASP AppSec conferences format, especially when it talks about global conferences, there'll be good number of people that'll be there, and keynote person would be on the spotlight. If there are four keynote speakers, and then you'll be at the spotlight. And especially um, for me, I was keynoting for the first time.
Hmm.
I was dead nervous, even though I knew my topic well. It's the topic I work around it a lot, wherein I talk about bringing diversity in infosec, bringing more people, more students, more kids in infosec.
Hmm.
It was all around it. But then s- I had to work through for like good 2 months, write down my content at like one place, understand what exactly I want on my presentation. People has to connect to me so that I can take it to a different level, and it shouldn't sound like just a talk. It has to be a content around a keynote presentation. So one other thing which I will tell you, that what I do, what I've learned from my mentors and people around, that I share my presentation with people, and take their inputs, and not with anyone
Hmm.
and everyone, but few people whom I really trust. I share my presentation with them. I do demo talks, like with
Okay.
myself and with the people around. It gives me a confidence that yes, there are multiple iterations I've done, there are mistakes that I have done. I know what my mistakes are because I get a
Right.
feedback after it, and then I improve myself.
That's great. Well, so Vandana, in wrapping up here, do you have any final words of encouragement for people who are thinking maybe I would like to say something I know about? What could you say to help get them to get up and write that abstract and start submitting it?
Write an abstract, gear yourself up, and submit. There will be failures. Absolutely. I get so many rejections sometimes. So, but again, you should learn from your failures what was gone wrong. So we can ask
Mhm.
the conference organizers that if they have not selected my abstract, can you please provide me a feedback? And there are a lot of conferences which actually provide a proper feedback, what went wrong or what we could have done better. It's not just on the wrong side, but what we could have done better. So we can ask for a feedback, and then till the time we submit, we would never be getting selected. So submit. And there are a lot of there are a lot of amazing warm conferences around the world, like B-sides conferences are like so warm conferences. There are conferences which are specially modeled around beginners. Go ahead and start there. And not if something goes wrong, people will cheer you up rather than bringing you down. So just go and submit.
Just go and do it. Thanks so much. So that's been Vandana Verma for the podcast on how to become an Infosec speaker. For Peerless, I'm Dean Webb saying I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you stay tuned for the next installment in the series. Until that time, bye bye.
Thank you so much.